Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paid House channel. Today, I want to quickly break down what I've been doing all year, where I've been for the last few months, what I've learned, and what I'm doing now going into 2026. I'm going to be talking about, myself, my career as an entrepreneur, my agency, Paid House, and also how I am kind of seeing marketing and Google Ads, which is I know what a lot of you are here for, going into next year. So welcome back. Hopefully you don't mind the moody lighting. This is going to be a little bit sort of off the top of the head today. I'm just going to ramble at you because it's been quite a long time, to be honest, as you can see. And I've got a couple points with me here as well, so I'm going to get started. Now, the first thing that I think I've, when reflecting back on this year, I've gone wrong on is getting distracted. Okay? And, what I mean by that is if you look at my career in 2024 and even previous years, before we became Paid House, we were the paid search company. Some of you may even remember the old branding and the old name. And all we did was, Google Ads for e-commerce brands. That was it. Which is the same thing every single day in, day out. And what that meant is, we were the best at it. Quite frankly, the best at it. Are we still great at it? Absolutely. We are still 100% in the top 1% of Google Ads agencies. But I'm going to be honest with you. I have let myself slip this year and I've taken my eye off the ball a little bit. And I'm going to talk about what I'm doing about that in a little bit later in this video. But the point is, back when, before we rebranded, we were just doing Google Ads. And so that meant that our onboarding was perfect because I didn't have any other onboardings. It was just Google Ads onboarding for e-commerce brands that I had to focus on. And so that was, one document, one SOP, one process that I just perfected. And then, the first week of the customer journey, what does that look like? The research stage, the technical stage, and then the stage where we actually go ahead and launch campaigns and then optimize them. Like I just knew that whole customer journey, that whole process like the back of my hand. And then what happened at the start of this year, we obviously rebranded. And the reason we rebranded is because we wanted to expand past just doing Google Ads. And we implemented Meta, then we implemented email, then we implemented CRO and creative. And now we're in this position where we're a full stack D2C agency. And that has been both one of the best decisions I've ever made and also one of the worst at the same time, right? How can it be good and bad at the same time? Well, it was a fantastic decision because when you introduce new products, it's the same thing as an e-commerce brand as it is in a service business. When you introduce new products or new services, you make more money. Why? Because your existing customer base, a percentage of those customers are going to buy that extra service or that extra product. There's a percentage of your customer base that has churned, that is no longer buying your stuff, that hears about your new product line and comes back to buy that because it's more suitable for them at their current stage. There is a higher chance that you're going to close new prospects because you have more to offer them. And with e-commerce brands, they're at different stages of the journey. Some people need Meta because they're earlier on, or they have a more unique product category that doesn't suit Google. Some people need Google because they've already got Meta sorted and they want to scale and they want to diversify their channel mix. Some people actually need neither of those, and what they need to focus on is CRO, landing pages, offering, product positioning, because paid traffic isn't converting for them, right? And so that allowed us to make a lot more money, quite frankly, through doing that. However, it was also a bad decision because, what we lost is that ability to be super dialed in and specialized on one thing. And I went from having one service onboarding to like 5 or 6 different service onboardings, 5 or 6 different customer journeys, 5 or 6 different, service procedures and all these different things, right? So that has definitely been interesting. I suppose a piece of advice is don't underestimate what it takes to bring out different products and service lines. Again, this is so applicable for e-commerce brands as well. Like I see so many brands, and the co-founder of Purdy Fig talked about this. I just watched him on a recent podcast, but you get distracted by launching all these different new products when in reality you have one product that's probably gotten you to X, and just focusing on the channel that you're on, the marketing that you're on, the retention that you can get from those customers on that specific product, focusing on those things is actually going to be able to scale you way further than just bringing out a new product and bogging down your team, right, and having to hire extra people, which is obviously what we've done. The team has grown from 10 people at the end of last year to around 30 because of all of the different additional service lines that we've added on. So that's also another thing. It's like managing a team that's 3 times the size now is also a bit of a challenge, right? People need all these different things and they want all these different things, and just as you have client churn, you also have team churn. There's quite frankly going to be a percentage of your team every year that churns. And so the bigger your team is, the more people you have to hire to replace that. You don't even think about these things when you launch new products. You're like, oh, new product, more money. It's like, well, actually it comes with all this other stuff. And if you have a team of 100 people and your team churn is, you know, maybe 10% a year, you have to hire 10 people a year just to be able to deliver the same services. If your services require 100 people or your company requires 100 people. Okay, that's not even including the additional hires that you need to make if you want to grow. And so hiring becomes a bit of a bottleneck, right? And so anyway, that's something that I found very interesting this year. And as I said, I don't regret the diversification, and it's not something that I'm reversing, it's something that I'm addressing, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. The other thing I think I made a mistake on is removing myself from the business too much. So at the start of this year, we hit a really respectable revenue level for an agency. I'll be candid with you, it was about $155,000 in 1 month, which is pretty cool, in January, as I said. And at that point, I was like, right, cool. You know, I've cracked business. It's a straight road to $1 million a month, easy days. And so I basically just, you know, I had a bit of an ego, and I was like, I'm going to take myself completely out of business, hire a head of Google Ads, hire a head of service delivery, essentially. Obviously had a head of operations at that stage. I basically had a bunch of different heads of department, but I did that too soon because I hadn't really myself, you know, firstly grasped some of the new services that we were introducing before I sort of delegated other people to manage those and those teams. And secondly, I just don't think I really properly defined the job role of what a head of Google Ads, you know, should be doing on a daily basis, right? I was just like, oh, my agency needs one. Let me just hire one. Without really, you know, going deep on like what that is. And that's such an important thing if you're hiring you need that job role clear as day, you know, clear as day, so there can be no confusion for you or for the employee on what they should be doing on a daily basis. Because, you know, if there's any confusion, if there's any obscurity, then they're not going to be as productive as they could be, and it's going to be a waste of money, quite frankly. And so that was another thing. And as well, when you remove yourself from the business so much, you kind of lose that like fundamental instinct of like knowing what the hell is going on. And that was definitely me, you know. Back in 2024, there were very few people on the planet that knew Google Ads better than me. I'm going to be honest with you. But I think so far this year, you know, I'm nowhere near as sharp as I used to be because I pulled myself out of the weeds. And, you know, and that was definitely a lesson, because now my content is going to be less insightful for consumers and potential clients, and like all of these different things as well, right? I'm going to be able to manage the Google Ads team less effectively, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not saying a CEO has to know everything about, you know, a service that a member of their team is delivering on, but it definitely helps, you know, it definitely helps. Like, it's certainly a competitive advantage if you do know those things. And so that was very interesting to me as well. So it's been a very interesting year for me. We've had some highs, as I said. We've had, you know, record revenue months, record profit months. We've gotten some clients some awesome results. You know, like, I mean, just to name one, we helped a client, you know, do 150K in revenue in 1 day with Google Ads this year. Like, there's some crazy case studies out there, and no one is more proud about that than I am. Like, truly. But then there's also a huge amount of mistakes that I've made. Like, I actually have a running note in my phone of like all the mistakes that I've made this year, and it's pretty long, to be honest with you. But it's certainly taught me a lot of stuff, and it's put hair on my chest. And that brings me nicely onto what am I focusing on now? What have I learned from this year, and what am I moving forward on? So the first thing that hopefully you'll be excited to know is that I am doubling down on Google Ads once again. Now, we're not getting rid of the other service lines because they're super important, and we've gotten some amazing results with them. You know, just because I don't know them as well as Google Ads doesn't mean that my team doesn't know them inside and out. And, you know, email marketing, we've generated fantastic levels of revenue for our clients and all these other things. But I don't want to talk about those because my expertise, my area of genius, I would say, is Google Ads. And I definitely think that our agency, you know, our area of genius is Google Ads. We kind of want our clients to come to us not for any other service other than Google Ads. We want you to start there. We want you to get a taste of our team's expertise. And then if it makes sense at other points, you can expand onto other service lines with us, like creative, CRO, Meta, etc. And again, all of these other services complement Google Ads. That's the reason we introduced them in the first place. If you're running Google Ads and your conversion rate is not where it needs to be, oftentimes it's not, you know, the fault of the media buyer, because they are at the end of the day driving qualified traffic with the right keywords to the right page, it's going to be a function of your conversion rate being too low. And so then you need CRO. And then you might say, well, still the ROAS is too low and the unit economics are too well. Well, then you need better email marketing to squeeze more juice and retention out of those customers that you're paying so much for. And then you say, well, Google Ads isn't scaling. And well, that's because there's not enough demand generation for your product going on. There's not enough search volume. And that can often be cured by really pumping meta ads, creating all of that demand, which then filters over to Google. And so that's why we want to offer that. So, the days of, I think, just being specialist marketers in a silo is gone. And I'm very confident in that. And I'm really proud of the change that I've made. But that is not to say that, the market and clients and brands don't value true subject matter experts as well. And that is what I want us to be with Google Ads. And so I'm really getting back involved in that in all aspects, in service delivery, helping on specific accounts, in marketing, really writing insightful content about what's actually going on in that world. Obviously with this YouTube channel, making a return to making videos, the best practices, the how-tos, the case studies, all of that good stuff. Also trying to build a bit more of a personal relationship with the channel and the viewers like I am today. Just coming on and talking about some raw stuff. And then just in general, really getting back into the weeds, having Google Ads as our core front end offering. Okay, everyone knows us for it. Everyone likes us for it. We've got the best case studies in the industry, in my opinion, for it. And that is where we want customers to experience us there first, at our absolute best. And then of course, once they've had that fantastic experience with us and they've built trust, then they can, branch out into other services with us. And of course, we're going to get them amazing results there as well. But anyway, I digress. That is kind of my reflections on this year, my plan for next year. Okay, so make sure if you are still watching that you subscribe, you turn those notifications on. Okay, as cliche as it is, but there will be a lot of good content on the way in regards to Google Ads for e-commerce brands. And thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Comment down below if you can relate to any of this stuff, if you enjoyed this video, if you want more of this kind of style. And I'll see you in the next video.